So I've thought about this, but I've had a few people mention this in the comments as well. Matchup between Calvin, the Martian alien from the movie Life.
Go, get out of here.
And the Thing, the organism or alien from the movie The Thing. What would happen if these two alien species met one another? The reason why this matchup is so freaking amazing is because both of these guys seem impossible to kill. As usual, let me give you guys a quick synopsis, or their bio actually listed on their wiki pages so you guys get an idea of what we're working with. The Thing, also known as a thing from another world, is a shape-shifting creature that crash-landed upon Earth roughly 100,000 years ago. It was frozen in the ice of Antarctica and accidentally freed by the crew of Norway's Thule Research Station, which it proceeded to attack and destroy in 1982. The Thing was forced to move onto America's U.S. outpost North Number 31 to continue its attempts to escape mainland. This creature has the ability to absorb and copy the DNA of any life form it consumes, allowing it to take on its appearance, memories, and mannerisms. Freaking creepy, right? As a parasitic life form, the Thing seeks to absorb and assimilate any nearby life form native to whatever planet the Thing arrives on. By the way, for those of you who don't know what assimilate means, it basically means what I said earlier, to copy, absorb, or a more formal definition, it means to cause something to resemble or take in information, culture, etc. and understand it fully. This is basically what the monster in the Thing does, as it becomes the humans by looking like them, but also acting like them and having some of their memories. Ugh. The creature has evolved to do this, or has adapted this way of living so that it cannot be easily recognized as a monster. It can live in a shelter, it can adapt to any environment and have its food at the ready, and none would be the wiser. Now here's a kicker. Each individual cell of the creature is both part of a singular, multicellular cellular life form and a distinct independent entity at the same time. Dual functionality of the creature enables individual cells and or collections of cells to function as separate organisms if necessary, which invariably focused on one goal: assimilating and imitating other life forms. This means that if you chop off one part of the creature, it will continue living, and so will the other part. We even have creatures like that today, like some starfish and planarians. This makes it surprisingly hard to kill the creature, because even if you kill it with fire and it burns to smithereens, or so you think, if a drop of that creature, like a drop of blood, like a pinpoint of blood, or a piece of the whole entity falls off while it's being burned, it will go off and become its own entity and grow and do the same thing all over again. Now you know the basics for the Thing monster, and people call it the Thing because we don't know what its actual original form is. Now, the reason why we're matching this Thing up with Calvin is because they're actually very alike, except Calvin seems to prefer to be his own entity, adapting to his environment and prey as time goes on, and more so with knowledge and experience, similar to what we and most other organisms on the planet do. However, Calvin will change his appearance based on his environment. Anyway, let's get into his bio. Calvin is a name given to a Martian life form believed to have wiped out all life on Mars, therefore making it an apex predator. Each cell belonging to Calvin is a muscle, a nerve, and an eye at the same time. It is semi-intelligent. Calvin is able to quickly adapt to its surroundings. Calvin is presumed to be a species which lived on Mars and dominated the Martian soil. He's basically the only living thing that they were able to find there. In a hibernation state, the crew woke Calvin, and Calvin's first priority was to grow, and the second was to ravage the crew. Now, this is what's listed in his little bio or wiki, but that's not exactly how it happened. You see, when they first found Calvin, he was discovered as a sample of dormant organic tissue, and then when he was given nutrients and water and oxygen or whatever else, he began to grow into a multicellular cephalopod-like creature. Before ever being attacked or anything that happens, Calvin was fine, he was curious about his world, and then later on things changed based on a specific action by one of the human members. Now, here are the differences that we've noticed based on these monsters' respective movies. The Thing doesn't necessarily seem aggressive. It can pretend to be someone else and gets along with people and even pass for a normal human being or normal whatever it decides to take the form of until it gets one of them alone, or until all the normal organisms discover that, well, this thing is not like the others. During that time that it's discovered by a pack of normal organisms, the Thing will try to get on out of there. The Thing actually does not prefer to fight. It's intelligent enough to know when it has been discovered, and the only thing that makes us believe that this Thing is way more intelligent than the rest of the movie makes it seem is the fact that it flew in on a freaking spaceship. So, you know, there's that. There's also another theory. Despite what the books may say, there's another open to interpretation theory, but we'll cover cover that in another video, and that's as to the origin of the Thing. Our boy Calvin, on the other hand, is not aggressive either until he is threatened, but unlike the Thing, fighting back is not a last resort for Calvin. Calvin is an OG. Calvin has a binary decision-making process. If it threatens you, kill it immediately. Kill it hard. Or eat it by killing it, because you know it's most efficient. You eat it, you become bigger by eating it, whatever. In the beginning of the movie, Calvin was really fascinated with every new thing he discovered and every or anything that he interacted with. I mean, who's to say that he wouldn't have eaten the humans later, even if they weren't mean to him? But being as intelligent as he was, I think he would have realized that if the humans were friendly and beneficial to him, he would have used them to help him get food or find something else to eat. As we can see in the duration of the rest of the movie life, Calvin is very, very intelligent. He learns even faster than humans and grows in size the more he eats. Eating one rat caused him to double in size almost immediately. Devouring the insides of a human who was a threat to him caused him to double in size again immediately. When Calvin is super aggressive, he will fight and hunt down the threat until it is all gone. But he doesn't care about mimicking them or assimilating them. Who knows whether or not he would have adapted to be able to do that like the Thing monster, but that doesn't seem to be in Calvin's nature, nor does it seem to be efficient for him as a species. He kills, he eats, he grows, he eats bigger things, and grows some more. Calvin is a lot more curious about his surroundings than the Thing. The Thing only seems to have a one-track mind, and that is to assimilate and take over its environment, similar to the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise, who kill and conquer everything, utilizing their host as a part of their reproductive process and taking on the DNA of its host, bearing resemblance to whatever it chooses to lay its eggs in. Calvin will discover what is friendly and what is not first. He has never been aggressive or hostile towards anything until it has proven to be hostile towards him. When he realized that the human was the one who shocked him, he took that to mean that it was a threat. And here's the funny thing. Early on, he doesn't even associate the humans with being the threat. He associates the glove and the thing holding the tool that hurt him as being the threat. Notice when he got out, he didn't eat Hugh, he left him there. He explored his surroundings and then went to the rat. He tried to see if the rat was nice. It was not, and so he killed and ate it. The humans freaking out, another human went in there and then it attacked him first, and then he realized that all the humans and anything associated with these things that look like humans are in fact a threat. We gotta remember at that time that Hugh was shocking Calvin. Calvin didn't understand that the man was doing that to try and bring him back to life. For all we know, Calvin was in a state of deep rest, and the humans should have known that. Calvin probably was sleeping so deep, which is normal for him. And so how would you feel if somebody or something came into your home and electrocuted you in your sleep, when in your mind it should be obvious to them that you're sleeping? What if an anaconda came through your window and wrapped you up and you woke up with your ribs being crushed? You wouldn't sit there and look at the snake and be like, "Aw, he's just trying to help me out. He's just trying to bring me back to life because he probably thinks I'm dead. Well, it's very obvious to me that I'm sleeping, but he doesn't know that." No, if you had something really sharp nearby, you'd stab the shit out of it and kill it. Then you would have this PTSD thing going on, thinking that all snakes are bad or a danger to you, and you'd lock your windows. Calvin defended himself. That was reactionary, and in his mind, something was trying to kill him while he was at his most vulnerable. We've seen that even in his littlest form, he has surprising grip strength for his size. So that's all we have to know about Calvin. Now for the Thing. What if these two had met? Certainly, Calvin probably would have been very curious about the Thing. This thing would have crash landed on Earth. Calvin would have seen it. And yes, I don't think Earth's gravity would be an issue for Calvin, even though he evolved in space. He would more so quickly adapt to his surroundings. I mean, this is an apex predator that was able to wipe out all of Mars civilization. He was the only thing left alive. Finding that he is alone and he's just some random entity, of course the Thing would try to eat Calvin. As soon as the Thing breaks off a piece of its body and tries to swallow Calvin, Calvin would be like, "I'm not having any of that." Calvin would rip it to shreds, but here's the issue. The Thing, once it has fully absorbed an organism, can take on its mannerism. It's easy for Calvin to kill humans. They can't regenerate, they can't pop off and form new versions of themselves from their fingers, but this Thing can. And even though Calvin would squeeze it to death or try to feed on it, little pieces of the Thing would just pop off and make completely new versions of themselves. Not to mention a drop of blood ingested by Calvin of this Thing can become its own organism within Calvin, eating him from the inside out. Now, since Calvin would have a hard time dying, since each part of his body is its own thing as well, the Thing would be able to assimilate and become another creature similar looking to Calvin. But Calvin wouldn't die. Calvin would still be himself because, since as I said before, different parts of Calvin's body can make a completely new Calvin's, Calvin would just come back and eat another creature, and they would just keep devouring each other and making more of themselves. So I know what many of you might be thinking. It's a stalemate, right? I mean, obviously, Calvin can't be easily killed, and neither can the Thing, so the both of them just just continue doing this or decide that maybe it's not a good idea to go after this thing because it's just fruitless. But there's one thing that we've learned about one of them that gives them an advantage over the other. Calvin doesn't just adapt to his surroundings biologically, he also adapts to his surroundings technologically. Very early on in the Life movie, we saw Calvin pick up a tool and use it to solve a problem. He didn't really have to do that throughout the rest of the movie because his body was everything that he needed to take care of business. But let's say there is a monster like this that is not easily killed. Being able to adapt on the fly and adapt very quickly with his knowledge and experience, and also having the ability to utilize tools and devices, Calvin would quickly figure out a way to kill this creature. Maybe even adapt himself in such a way to kill this creature. There's also one other advantage that Calvin has over the Thing. Calvin is constantly adapting. The Thing just changes from host to host, but at its core, it's still the same type of creature, and it can only do the same type of thing. We haven't seen it change its shape into another creature that can fly away. Usually, it's this weird insect-like thing that uses basically other organisms as some sort of skin or clothes. That is after it assimilates them. However, Calvin, whenever he eats something, he grows and adapts based on the environment that he's in. So if he had done the same thing on Earth, he probably would have adapted to grow legs. Also, him being able to use tools and having a better understanding of things in general than the Thing monster does, he would either adapt biologically to be able to kill the monster outright or absorb it, or he would utilize technology around him, whatever resources he has available, or even possibly create his own technology in order to kill the creature. Calvin would figure it out very, very quickly, especially if this thing is very hostile and a threat. Why do you think that he, in the movie, is said to be the reason why the entire Martian civilization and every other bit of life on Mars is totally erased? Now, I know that's an in-universe theory, but it's still the theory that we're going with as fact right now because we've seen just a little Calvin what he is capable of doing. If Martian life was a civilization like ours, or even if they weren't, even if it was just a whole bunch of other species that resided on the planet, similar to what we have now, dinosaurs or aliens or whatever it is. Calvin being the last thing standing when everything was whisked away off of Mars, no atmosphere, and still living in a dormant state, having the ability to grow like wildfire and eliminate everything in his path. That must mean that he's basically unkillable, and if anybody else lived on Mars and had technology anywhere close to ours, they would have used it on him, but clearly it didn't work. If we get every drop of the Thing creature and we kill it with fire, microwave it, whatever, until it's all gone, it's dead forever if we can get lucky enough with that. But with Calvin, apparently, that doesn't happen. So the winner of this interaction would be Calvin, just because he can outlast this creature and because he is constantly adapting and he has technological prowess, even from a very small, barely developed organism. Seeing how ridiculously intelligent he is at his small, barely formed amoeba-like size, think about how intelligent he gets the more he grows in size. We see his size amping up exponentially, as well as his knowledge and experience and intelligence. He would be way out of the Thing's league. Is it possible that the Thing and him would be friends? No. As I said before early on, the Thing is more like a calculating substance. It's more like death. It just knows what it has to do and it does it without thinking, just like the Xenomorphs, even though the Xenomorphs seem to have a bit more intelligence than the Thing. The Thing seems to be behaving based on machine instinct. Calvin is a lot more interactive and he looks like he's way more there as far as his sapience goes. Anyways, what do you guys think? What would happen if these guys were to interact? Do you think that this theory seems plausible, what we've arrived at with our answer, or you think it's all bull and the Thing would definitely obliterate Calvin? Let us know in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.